Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the iPhone 11 Pro Max and compare it against the iPhone 12 Pro Max and see which particular iPhone is a better one for you. Now, the thing I will definitely tell you about these two particular phones is that both of these devices are still very interesting to say the least. I definitely will tell you, if you are about to go through and pick up a phone, you can't, necessarily go wrong with either one of these because they're both still supported with software, but I don't really think either one of these are the best choices in the world. So if you do want to go ahead and pick up some iPhones that I would recommend buying this year though, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the 12 Pro Max. These two phones originally came out a couple of years ago. The 11 Pro Max came out back in 2019. So this phone is substantially older now than it was back then. This phone is approaching 6 years old this year, which is actually pretty crazy. So imagine being able to go through and buy these types of devices that are essentially going to be giving you that type of capability. I mean, these types of devices from that perspective do kind of show their age a bit, and that is kind of one of those things to keep in mind there. So it isn't necessarily the biggest deal in the world, but if you are about to go through and pick up a device, you probably want to go through and buy a device that might be a little bit better in terms of future-proofing yourself. With these phones, like I mentioned, you are essentially getting a 6.5-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So within a phone like this, I do think you're pretty much getting like a good type of experience for the most part. There's not anything like super insane or super negative that you're experiencing here. And I do think from that side, you're still getting like a good, decent device. Is it perfect? Probably not, but it's a good big panel and you might, still prefer having a panel of that size in some cases. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there a little bit as well. Now with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, this type of panel is slightly different. So within this type of phone, you're basically getting a bigger sized 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, I feel like this one probably is the better one in some cases, in most cases. One, it's still giving you the same brightness, but it is a bigger size panel, and this type of panel I would say is more in line and more in tune with what you're basically getting nowadays. So within a device like this, that kind of is what you're essentially getting here, and that's kind of just what ends up happening when you're going through and getting these types of panels. So I think again, that's just kind of what ends up happening here. It may not be the biggest deal in the world, but that is one of those examples in this particular situation as well. So again, it isn't necessarily the biggest deal in the world, but I would say when you're looking at both these phones, the iPhone 12 Pro Max definitely looks a lot more modern. That's going to be the phone that makes a lot more sense. It's going to also be giving you flat sides, so that kind of gives the impression that that type of phone has less bezel on it compared to the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So that right there also is another one of those big things to keep in mind there too. You're getting lightning ports at the bottom of both these phones, which is something that's really cool. You're also getting, like I said, flat sides on the 12 Pro Max, which is a little bit of a nicer experience there. On top of that, you're also still going through and maintaining pretty good, build and pretty good experiences between both as well. They're both giving you flat sides all throughout. They're both giving you frosted glass backs all throughout, which that is a really nice thing to have. If you're going to go through and pick up a device, it's nice to be able to go through and get those types of flat sides, in a device like this. So I feel like that right there is actually something that's pretty nice in and of itself. And you're still able to maintain a really good type of experience between these types of devices. There's still a lot to love about these types of phones. So I would always say if you're going to go through and pick up a device, that right there is always a very nice thing to have between both. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there a little bit as well. Now, on top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here too, is that between both these devices, if you're going to go through and pick them up, it's always good to be able to go through and buy a phone that, is probably going to be giving you an overall better type of experience. And the camera side is something that's very interesting, because if you take a look at the camera perspective, they're both giving you triple camera setups. So they're both wide, ultra wide, and telephoto lenses, and they're also still giving you 4K 60 on the front and the back. So the camera layout is essentially kind of the same thing here. There's not really anything super insane or anything that we haven't already seen before between these. They're both relatively kind of the same thing. So I think that in and of itself is a nice thing to basically have here, being able to go through and pick up some of these devices that are giving you really good types of experiences. I think that right there is a very nice thing. So between both these cameras, they're both going to be, pretty good. Again, I don't necessarily think they're going to be perfect or anything, but I think if you are about to go through and pick up a device, they're, giving you a good type of camera. But when compared to cameras nowadays, those are going to be slightly different. right? So those newer types of cameras are definitely going to be giving you an overall better type of experience. Things like an iPhone 16 Pro and 15 Pro that is going to be giving you just the overall better type of camera capability. These ones are a little bit different. They're a little bit older. So they're not really going to be giving you the latest and greatest anymore. And that's just kind of what you'd expect when you're going through and buying these types of devices now. So from that side too, that kind of covers it up there. Now, another thing to keep in mind too is that with these types of devices, another thing to keep in mind here too with these types of devices is that when you're going through and buying these types of phones, the software is another one of those really big things to keep in mind here too. So from a software performance perspective, you have to remember that when you're going through and buying these types of devices, the software, they're still supported with software updates, right? So you're still getting software updates as of this point. But the thing is that these phones aren't going to be lasting forever. And the 11 Pro Max right now on iOS 26 is the oldest supported iPhone right now on this version of software. So you have to kind of think about that if you're going through and buying these types of phones, right? If you're going through and buying these types of devices, you're kind of stuck in the situation where you're going to be getting a phone that is already kind of showing its age, right? So from that perspective, there isn't really necessarily a huge reason of buying these types of devices if they're already done getting software support. There might be some better options out there for the most part. So in my perspective, in my opinion, it does kind of make a lot of sense if you're going to go through and pick up a device to go through and buy a device that might be giving you a better type of experience. So in my personal opinion, in my personal situation, if you're about to go through and pick up a device, like I said, it does probably make more sense to buy something like a 12 Pro Max, but even then, it makes more sense to look probably for a different type of device rather than these ones. So from that side as well, that kind of covers it up there too. On top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here as well is that when you take a look at both these types of devices, you're going to have to remember that these types of phones, they're still giving you like good capability when it comes down to the performance. There's still lots to love about these types of phones for the most part. Like they're still giving you like a good type of capability and good type of experience for the most part here too. Like there's not anything super insane. The iPhone 11 Pro is giving you that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside with 4 gigabytes of RAM. The iPhone 12 Pro Max, Apple A14 Bionic chip inside with 6 gigs of RAM. And in my personal opinion, clearly the iPhone 12 Pro Max is going to be the faster one here. But I still think something like the iPhone 11 Pro Max is still giving you like a good type of experience for the most part. And I would imagine that if you are about to go through and pick up a device, that one does kind of make a lot of sense to go and buy as well. So in my personal opinion, right, if I'm about to go through and pick up a device, I definitely do think something like an iPhone, 11 Pro Max may not be as good as something as an iPhone 14 Pro Max or 13 Pro Max or 12 Pro Max. Those phones are going to be the better ones there for the most part. But from what I can tell you, if I'm about to go through and pick up a device, I don't think I would buy a 12 Pro Max either. I probably would tell you buying something like an iPhone 13 Pro Max at the bare minimum would be a way better experience. Even though you can buy an iPhone 11 Pro Max and still get updates and stuff like that, I think it would make a lot more sense to go and buy something like an iPhone, like an iPhone 13 Pro Max that's giving you a 120 Hz display and a way better experience at that point. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there as well. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.